Sairam, you can start.
I will start in 1 minute.
Yes, yes.
Sairam to all of you. Om. 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 Om SaiSparshaya vidmahe Satyadevaya dhimahi Tanna sarva prachodayat. Om SaiSparshaya vidmahe Satyadevaya dhimahi Tanna sarva prachodayat. Om SaiSparshaya vidmahe Satyadevaya dhimahi Tanna sarva prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sairam to all.
Sairam. Good evening and Sairam to all the devotees of SaiSparshan. And it has been a very commemorative thing that with Swami's blessings, that is the 32nd Satsang online session. And it has been certainly with Swami's grace and the tremendous efforts of our Sai youth, Sri Vinod, Praveen, and others, that this has been made possible to continue for such a longer duration. And also the bhajans, online bhajans, which crossed more than 75 to 80 sessions. It is really Swami's grace only. And therefore, again, with our pranams at the lotus feet of Sat Sai Swami, that we will start today's satsang talk. Just as a small remembrance that day for yesterday was Mahashivratri, the worship of Lord Shiva. And Shivratri was always a very big event at Prashanti Nilayam. And Swami's Lingodbhavam was a world famous kind of happening that was taking place. People from all over the world were drawn to India, to Puttaparthi, Prashanti Nilayam, to witness the Lingodbhavam, this miracle of Swami of creating the Atmalinga, the Hiranyagarbha, and so many different types of lingas from his mouth and showing it to the entire devotees. And it used to be a kind of an unforgettable experience in the lives of lakhs of Swami's devotees. Therefore, let us again pray to Swami for that Mahashivratri blessing Swami is to give always. And this time also, as most of us watched from Prashanti Nilayam, the Abhishekam, Rudrabhishekam, the bhajans, and all others, which has helped us. That our kind of that entire momentous events have helped us to listen to, have listened that the bhajans and other things which was fully vibrant. And because of the vibrancy, that it used to bring in some kind of spiritual emotions to people. And that's what the power of Lord Shiva. And the Shivaratri has been, as told by Swami, has been an important event because on the Shivaratri day, that dark night just before the Amavasya is a very eventful one from the point of view of is a dreadful in nature. And the day following or prefer to preceding the Amavasya will be always not only darkness from the point of view of the world light, but also from the mental darkness that's full of sorrow, tamasic qualities, and all these things will be there. And because of the tamasic aspects of the divine principle, the Shivratri, he says we have to guard each other against this ignorance, darkness, sorrow, and the tamasic aspects. To win over that, Swami used to say, be awake that entire night and awaken others also, so that nobody sleeps that whole night and they continue the Jagarana, being awake all through the night and thinking about Swami, thinking about the Shiva and worship at temples and carry on Rudrabhishekam for the 4 Javas. Oh, this has been a kind of a religious activity that has been there for centuries and centuries and which has helped the devotees to have the blessings of Lord Shiva. And the Jagarana is that not only on the Shivratri day that we keep awake, although in the night physically, but otherwise, all through our life, rest of the years of our life, we have to be mentally awakened. See, the mental awakeness is a must all through, not just on one particular Shivratri day or one particular Krishnastami or a particular function or a particular day or a particular time. See, 24 hours every day of our life, we should be always awake and listen to the inner provokings and the inner inspiration given to us by Lord Shiva. And that is one important thing that we move from that, having had the blessings of Swami on the Shivratri day. And today is that Amavasya, which has followed. And again, the Amavasya is nothing but most of us, we pass through dark phases in our life. And dark phases will bring us sorrows, will keep us frustrated, disappointed, and delusion. In order to overcome all these things, we will have to think of Swami and proceed further. And topic for today's session has been sealing on desires and control of senses, that is vital 11 senses, as per the teachings of Swami in various discourses and discussions. It is very important that we talk on the subject for some time, and then it may also spill over to next week, a few points which would be left over. This sealing on desire and control of senses, these are interconnected because desire is one of those very important aspects about which if we can have a control or a limit or a ceiling. And Swami has propounded this a number of years back, saying that if you have to be in satsang, if you have to have the blessings of God, and then if you are got full of desires, and with the desires, God will be always away. God and desires, they cannot be together. Therefore, if you want to desires away, then God will be near. And if you keep God away, then you will be full of desires. Therefore, this is one thing which is true in the spiritual aspect. Therefore, to keep the desires out of our reach to an extent. But in the practical point of view, is it ever possible to be desirelessness, to have desirelessness? Because desirelessness is a very big virtue. That means having no desire for anything. But since it may be practically not easy and possible, Swami said the word ceiling on desires. Ceiling means have some desire, but have a ceiling on it. Have a kind of a limit on that. Therefore, know how much is okay, how much more is not all right. So, if we can draw a kind of a limit and keep a kind of a ceiling on the desires, for desires also are under our control to an extent and it will not overpower us. Many a times, the desires overpowers us. Therefore, this overpowering by the desires is something we have to keep a check. And what is first of all desire? Let's try to understand. What are desires? And is it a kind of a want? Want of something, is it a desire? And is the wish a desire? Is hoping for something a desire? Is a prayer to God a desire? And is expecting something sometime is a desire? See, what actually is the desire? What are the qualities of desire? And what are its kind of topography? That's a very difficult thing to analyze and to understand. Therefore, because this desire is something a deep-rooted psychological complex phenomena. Nobody can really explain or define what actually is it. And I don't think there is any person, see, except Swami, who could say, I had no desires, I have no desires. Because the having no desires itself becomes a desire. I don't want to have any desire. Itself sometimes may become a desire. And therefore, desirelessness is a very difficult aspect. It's a psychological thing. And this desires, how they start, how they take a shape, and how it emerges, and how we can say something is desire, something is not a desire. And therefore, in order to enumerate this, Swami had given one example of what is desire, how a desire prompts things, and also keeps people caught. See, Swami says that somebody was walking on a road near a kind of a agricultural or a horticultural farm, and there he sees a mango tree from a distance. And then who sees? The man sees means the eyes of the man sees. That means the sense organ. The sense organ of sight, that is eyes, the eyes sight a mango tree. And then the moment the eyes see, and it is abbreviated by the mind, that's, oh, it's a mango fruit. And mango fruit means sweet. And the moment that the mind interprets it as the sweet mango fruit, then the mind instructs the body to go near the mango fruit or the tree, mango tree, and near the mango fruit. And then when the body is commanded by the mind, the legs are motivated to move towards the mango tree. And the ears are like the security people will be keeping watching for sounds of anybody nearby and tries to warn if somebody is coming, somebody is shouting. And the body commands the hands after the legs take your body towards the tree, the hands to reach up to the mango fruit and then pluck it. Therefore, hands obey the order. And hands is another sense organ. Similarly, the ear is a sense organ. The eyes are the sense organ. The feet are the sense organs, or the legs. And after the mango fruit is plucked with all this coordination of all these various sense organs, when the mind instructs the mouth to open and instructs the tongue to taste the ripened mango fruit which has been plucked. And the tongue relishes the taste and puts it to the throat to swallow. And then it moves to the stomach, the intestines to digest, convert into the blood and energy, and circulate to the heart, respiratory, brain, kidneys, liver, and various organs of the human body. Therefore, which mean the one simple act of our eyes seeing something made all these operations to happen. And during this, if any of the operations does not coordinate, does not go in line, then all these kind of tasks and efforts could go in waste. And while plucking the fruit, if a watchman notices, the mind orders the legs to immediately run and flee away from that place. and keeping the fruit. Sometimes he may succeed, he may drop the fruit, he may even fall while running, he may get caught, he could get punished. And this is an example of a desire. Either fulfilled desire means the you have succeeded in a desire to get that particular thing. And if suppose you have not been successful, then you will think of another attempt to do it. The mind will not keep quiet. It will not accept defeat. It will not accept failure. It says, okay, that time it didn't happen. I will try once more. And if suppose you have succeeded, and once you have succeeded, then will it keep quiet? The mind again instructs, no, I have taken only a few fruits from this mango tree. It is not enough. I'll have to take it home. I have to give it to my friends. I have to keep it for a few more days. I want more. Then the desire for more comes. Then again he goes to another tree, again plucks some more mango fruits. This process goes on. This is a repetitive kind of processes going on because of the desire to enjoy the taste of the mango fruits. And therefore, this desires sprout from lack of kind of sense control. And many times it is said, desires is like fire. Because fire, if you put some water into it or a little fuel into it, it won't quench. It will become more a flame. Flames will increase. Therefore, desires are also like flame or fire, which will increase with time and which will not decrease. And therefore, even if you sometimes want to abandon a desire, but one or the form, one or the other form of desire comes and encroaches upon us. It's not easy. Therefore, the more you want to quench it, the more you try to satisfy your desire, the more it grows. It's a serpentine. It's like a serpentine growth. For desires sprout from lack of sense control. And many a time, this desire also happens because you have something and somebody else has something more, something different. Because that somebody has something different, something more, a desire which was not there with us, it crops up and it prompts us that yes, we will also have that. Although maybe earlier you didn't have that feeling, now a desire comes because of comparison with others. See, from childhood, Yamanite decides, because even from childhood, children are born. See, the desires are born from that time, from the childhood, from the moment the child takes a birth. Because once it's able to recognize, and until it recognizes, it has a desire to recognize. Once it starts recognizing, starting little speaking, little moving, then it asks for toys. It desires for toys. If it is not given, it becomes angry. It asks for dress, asks for food, desires for milk, desires for bed, desires for sleep, desires for house. See, all these desires are kind of a passionate kind of inner feeling which will sprout one after the other. Then, just because one desire is little quenched, it does not stop. As long as somebody nurtures the desires. Many times what happens, instead of controlling the desires, we nurture the desire. That means we feed more fodder into the desire, thinking that, okay, let us satisfy. Because we feel, if suppose we satisfy the desires, we are going to be happy, we are going to be comfortable. In order to do that, we tend to nurture the desires. And the more we do it, it goes on growing more and more in a voluptuous manner. For the desires, many a times also depends on the capacity of us to buy the desired items. Nurturing means, if suppose we have a capacity, we are quite rich, we are quite affordable, then the feeling says, we have enough money, we have enough resources, why not? For instead of saying, do we need this? Then we think, why not? And then, why not when it comes? Then it continues. to go on having that desire to be fulfilled, and depends on the capacity to buy the desired items. But let us assume, suppose you have got capacity to buy the certain desires, but does it get reduced after you have purchased that particular thing? It doesn't. If it ceases, it could have been good. But after that, there are complementary desires. Because one desire will not come alone. Desires come along with its accomplices. The accomplices are that many of the complementary thing which needs, but it's not complementary to us at a separate cost. Now, all these accessories become again an added desire, and therefore they do not cease. But suppose if it happens, it's fine. And sometimes can we cut it off? They desire saying enough is enough. We are done enough now. We do not want more. It does not happen unless you are strong willed. It does not generally happen because the mind's job is to going on planning, and it implants new and new ideas and sees new and new attractions, and it goes on managing desires and multiplying desires. We multiply desires instead of reducing desires. Therefore, sometimes suppose you do not have capacity, let us say, to buy a particular thing of our desire. Then what happens? There is a kind of a proverb says, beg, borrow, or steal. For in order to quench your desire, beg, borrow, or steal. Beg means requesting, ask for rents, ask for lease, something kind of a thing, or go and pray. These are all little acts of begging so that you get what you want. Then suppose begging is not successful, borrow. Either take a loan from a bank, loan from friends, loan from relatives, use your credit cards generously, use your installment systems, and whatever it is, because we want to see that the desired item is ours. Beg, borrow. The last is steal. It even induces person to become criminals. Therefore, you are not able to do the first two, then you think, why not steal it? I am not able to get it, I am not able to buy it, but I want it. Therefore, let me steal that. That means a sense of crime is also induced. Such a person becomes thieves and then are caught and put in prisons. Therefore, Swami says the desire also induces the criminal thinking. They become father of crime, and many times all these efforts may fail. And such people then decides when the efforts of people to get desires fulfilled, it fails. Then what happens? Such people get disappointment, frustration, restlessness, and what Swami used to say, such people, instead of coming to Prashanti Nilayam, they step into Ashanti Nilayam, where they are sure to be surrounded by the voluptuous Ashanti and always disappointment and no happiness and Kutashukam, Ashanti Kutashukam, Kutasukam. That means that people will not have any kind of happiness all through their life. They'll be asking on desires and desires envelop them and consume them like a big forest fire. Then, what are the reasons for this? Because there is what's called Shadvarga and the six kind of enemies of man. Swami used to call this as six wonderful enemies. They are wonderful because people like it, and they're enemies because they're not good. Most of the time, we like things what is not good. We always tend to embrace things what is not generally good or acceptable. That's our mental tendency. That's our weakness. Then, see what six gunas are the kama. Kama is first what we thought and described as desires. The kama, that means the lust, even kind of higher desire is also called lust. And it could go into anything. And therefore, kama are the desires. Then, if suppose your desires are not fulfilled, you become angry. Because when you become angry, when you don't get something what you wanted, then you get angry. Otherwise, people are generally angry. They become angry. Anger is the result of the frustration of karma. That means which are not able to be successful. Or somebody is coming against it. The krodha, anger. And from the krodha, see, when anger is there, then with anger, you are able to sustain something. When the lobha of whatever at least you have got, if you are not able to get more, you would like to keep it securedly. You don't like to spend. You don't like to distribute to others. You don't want to be charitable. That means the lobha. Lobha creeps in. From the lobha comes the moha. Once with that great effects of lobha, miserliness, you have attained certain things. You have got your certain items with you. You get attached to it. It could be a house, a property, a vehicle, a relations, everything. And it could be number of things that we think we possess. And we not only possess the objects, but we also get possessed into the attachments. The attachments will not allow us easily to forget about that or move on. We always get attached to such objects and people and places, and then we cannot just leave from that place or live without them. The mother is the ego, the prestige, the pride. Because of mother, people think that there is nobody equal to me. I can do everything. And then from mother comes the matsarya, and you become jealous of somebody who is more rich than you, who is more stronger than us, who is more powerful. You become jealous. From jealousness comes the hatred. Because from jealousness, when you're jealous of somebody, we also start hating them. The hatred comes. And when you hate somebody, the enemy, and when you do all these things, they become enemies to us. In fact, there's nothing like friends or enemies. The enemies are only who are friends and whom you could not cope with, who became better than you, or whom you didn't like because of maybe certain aspects, and then they turn into enemies. Therefore, in order that we keep at least a check on this, there are some few prescriptions for sealing on desires. What are these prescriptions? First is, before you decide, assess your capacity. That is, how much you could really purchase or take or decide for. Assess your capacity, assess your background, assess your entire kind of operations. Assess the need. First of all, many are seeing something, then do we have the need for it? Because unless there is a need, why do you desire for it? Desire will not care for this. When a desire comes, I want this, I want to take this. Just the hands go and pick it up. Instead of at that time, do I need this? Maybe many times at the house, you may have all these things already, and it may be a kind of a duplicate. Assess the need, then assess the advantages. Suppose assuming I don't have this with me now. Suppose I take this. What is this advantage to me? Is it going to be advantageous? And then what is its cost? Okay, because many times it will be advantageous, it may be useful, but it is costing something which we feel is presently out of our reach or not that much proportionately it is useful. Now, many times something is useful, but at that cost may not be. Or assess the cost and assess the time. Many times you may need it in winter, but this is summer now. Suppose what you need in winter, why do you want to take in summer? Why don't you time it? Why don't you postpone? Why don't you face it? Then think of that postponing or facing. Assess where and when. Because many times you may not need it here. You may need it in some other place when you happen to go there. Therefore, keep that for that particular time or place and period instead of buying immediately, instantly. Postpone. Whenever a desire comes, try to postpone, not now, if you can. But postponing desires is a very, very difficult thing. It's practically many times people fall a victim. And cut your cloth as cut your dress as per the cloth. Because many a time, they say a tailor will, before you go for a measurement, he asks how much cloth you have brought, what type of cloth you have brought. And then he first assesses whether cloth is all right for a shirt or a pant or whatever it is, and then takes the measurements. Similarly, desires. Also, we should measure whether according to my capacity, whether I can even aspire for this desire. Although aspire is a word, it's a positive desire. Positive desire is aspiring. And the negative aspect of desire is the desire. And therefore, aspire. Even before we even aspire for that, whether what I have got is it sufficient? And buy as much as needed. There's also what we call a tendency for us to purchase much more than what is needed. Or sometimes waste it and even throw it because you bought more than what was required. And that's called drifting, drifting of your resources. And therefore, buy as much as needed, as and when needed, and no wastage of items. The wastage, Swami was very particular on sealing on desire. This is also very emphatically put, no wastage of money. That means whatever you have got, if you can control the wastage of money, wastage of water, wastage of space, accommodation, and wastage of time. Again, this is another subject. Maybe next week we can cover this, what we call time management. Because many times Swami used to say, if you lose money, you can re-earn. If you lose health, maybe with little expenditure, maybe with medicines and doctors, you can regain your health. But when you lose time, the last time can never be made up. Because last time can never be made up and it's always lost. Therefore, we have to be careful about this planning of time and then assessing and using it properly. Plan your finances. Coming a time, you don't know what actually is, how much you have, and how much it is required for what. Well, have a kind of a timetable, have a kind of a balance sheet, and then prioritize, allot a portion of that properly. And only your so-called expenses should be a kind of a small portion of what you think is required. And one important thing is we always have a tendency, if we get a desire, see, we want to fulfill that. And we don't put a brake to it. It is like only you are accelerating and we do not use the brake. And Swami has given this too. When you put accelerator, you can't put brake. And when you put brake, you are not accelerating. Your desires are also like that. Sometimes you have to put a brake to your desires. Burn your desires, Swami says. Burn your desires. And sometimes feel when you have a desire for something, not for me. That is very important. Okay, it's good. Somebody asks, is it not good? Very good. Then why don't you take it? Okay, sorry. Not for me. Not now. Can we express these things properly? We have to say, yes, not for me. Not now. Not for me. Not this time. Not here. Not now. And build up the savings from monies saved from desires. And Swami used to say, this is a very big thing. You may say that we do not have any resources with us to do some charity or do some satsang and do certain aspects. But Swami says, you don't need to be a very rich person to do good things. See, to do good thing, ordinary person with ordinary resources is also enough. And that's what healing on desire means. You are not creating more money to do satsang and to do the sai activities or charitable activities. See, out of your desires, if you are able to save something and which is considerable, and that suppose you can put it back into the satsang or spiritual activities or charitable activities, Swami says, I'm very happy. How much is not important to me? How much depends on each person. But even a little one, even some students, once during Swami's birthday celebration, one small student of primary school, some 5, 6 years old boy, he told Swami that Swami, you are doing so many good work, rural development project, water supply project. I don't have much money. And he gave whatever he saved, maybe some 10 rupees or something. And Swami was so moved, emotional. And he announced it to the entire crowd of 15,000 to 20,000 people, and showing this boy who had that in his heart, that even a little thing, although you may not know what the 10 rupee means and what the 10 rupee could do, but Swami says, yes, the 10 rupees also could do a lot of things because it was given from your heart. Whatever you do from your heart, there are a lot of different dimensions and different aspects of its multiplicities. And therefore, from money saved from desires, build up savings from money saved from desires, and then keep it in a separate. Swami used to even say, keep a small box, like pygmy box earlier, keep a small box in puja room, and daily, suppose you have saved something from some item which you didn't do, which you didn't purchase, put that money in that, see, golak, or in that pygmy box kept in the puja room, and say it's sealing on desires box. And then assume how we are able to build up this. Swami says, don't say that you are not able to save anything. Because every man is spending at least 25 to 30% money on so-called unrequired expenses. And suppose we cut down on that, which means you could have easily something like 30% of your income, which otherwise would have been spent on some other unwanted thing. Out of that, again, Swami says, not that you should become a sannyasi and you should say, I don't want anything. For take that minimum thing what you need. And even then, whatever you save, and go on putting it somewhere and save it. And then when it becomes little higher, whatever amount, then give it maybe for Annadana Prasadam or Sri Narayana Seva, or for giving some food package to some people, and Akshaya Patra, or whatever the type of schemes that is possible, which doesn't require a fortune of ours. Assume, Swami used to give an example. Say, suppose you are trying to go to a movie. The common practice of entertainment for people was planning to go to a movie. There are people in our house, there are 4 or 5 people. 4 or 5 people planning to go to a movie. And nowadays, because of new technologies, comforts, people decide where to go. Earlier, it was to be the closest cinema hall near to you, and then whatever economic class and all. Now, people, because of our advancement of and better economical propositions, people want to go to a multiplex, go to a gold class, go to the higher balconies, and all these things, and then also take food from there, which is very costly. So Swami said, calculate all that thing. Suppose you wanted to go to a movie, and you wanted to go to a multiplex, you wanted to also take food there, and you wanted to go by a cab. Suppose you calculate all these things, it comes to some particular amount. Therefore, instead of that, Swami says, no, not that you should drop the idea going to a movie. Suppose the movie is also in some other nearby theater, and where it is slightly cheaper. And also, if you can take some food with you, eat in the interval outside, if not allowed inside the cinema hall, then if it is nearby, go by walk possible or two-wheeler, and save the cost of the taxi or the cab. For like this, if you calculate, you can cut down a lot of things. This cut down is the ceiling. Wherever you can cut down, maybe it becomes surprise and shock for all of us. In an entire month, if you do this exercise, it could be a couple of hundreds of rupees. In a year, it could be a couple of thousands of rupees. In a span of 10 years or so, it could be a couple of lakhs of rupees. Therefore, it is substantial. And therefore, why not resort to this? Swami says that's also sealing a desire. Therefore, and also many times, if instead of going to theaters nowadays, it has also become, when theaters are all closed, people watching certain movies on the TV in the comforts of the house with almost no expense. Now, that's why Swami used to say, that way, if you can even spend some time with your family at home, leisurely watch even movies on TV, do it. Some entertainment is required. And whatever saving had been done by not going to a movie in a desired place of a multiplex, that whatever that money, put it into the charity box or that box in the puja room. Assume going for shopping also, similar thing, similar exercise. You want to go for shopping. Many times you choose shopping malls, which are all aplenty now, which is quite far away, 10, 15 kilometers. people don't mind driving in to shopping malls, to the markets, and also hotels, 3-star, 5-star big hotels, which is quite far away, and make a lot of travel. That means taking the cab or anything. And even tourism, many times going to pilgrimages like tourism, because they think pilgrimage is tourism. Although pilgrimage is different, tourism is different. Then eating in hotels and use of all these things, eating in hotels. That suppose you reduce something of this, if not the very aspect of it, at least the frequency, the number of occurrences. Suppose you are going and doing it twice a week, make it once a week. Suppose you are going and doing it 4 times a month, make it 2 times a month. Or reduce the frequency of the occurrence of these so-called certain operations. And similarly, save electricity. And many times people don't use this as a common knowledge. They think electricity is government. After what is that we are paying for it? Wasting of electricity, wasting of gas, wasting of water, wasting of space, wasting of road utilization, and the footpaths, garbage being left on the road and the footpaths. All these things are, even Swami said, it's a desire to see that all these things are kept out, and then the effect of pollution from them is also reduced. Then Swami also gave a hint. Whenever you go outside, one of the ways you can cut down your desires is take less money with you, or don't keep any credit cards or debit cards. And while going for shopping, which means at least you will purchase what you want instead of purchasing much more than what you want. And many times, not purchasing what you wanted, but coming back with many things not wanted, not planned. And use of mobile phones. Again, we have seen nowadays with the technology of the mobile phones, people are ready to leave anything but not their mobile phones. They are so attached to it and mobile phones and going on talking, even if not required. Therefore, speaking unnecessarily. It's also Swami says that also when you speak only, desires come. Somebody tells you something, you tell something, desires sprout. Speak as little as possible. Speak only when required. And reduce partying costs. Because nowadays it's become a kind of a practice, even if you cannot afford. Dad called us for a party. They did it in a grand manner. I also want to do it in a grand manner. I also want to call so many guests. I also want to do in a 3-star or 5-star hotel. Never like this unnecessary partying cost. And this could be saved. And in inviting a lot of friends and guests, meantime, they do not know who you are, you do not know who they are, and unnecessarily spending on them, and unnecessary visits. And also our making calls on others. Just because you are dropping somewhere, we just think that somebody is on the way, and you go and drop in at their place, maybe an unwanted guest at their place. Therefore, Swami is to say, avoid all these things. Now, in fact, the recent corona, in a way, has been a good teacher for us. So people are almost not visiting or going out as much as earlier, and they are confining themselves to their doors. And Swami also said another 2, 3 points. With this, we'll be closing. Divert your mind. Divert your mind from desires. That is how to do it. If you are to divert your mind from desire, you have to at least have these satsang activities. Maybe go and sit in a bhajan for a couple of minutes or hours and attend some satsang harikatha programs in a temple and go and listen to some good programs somewhere, some music. And then your time is now utilized otherwise. So divert your mind from only the points of desires and by the satsang. And Swami said satsang is one of the best activities to divert our mind. Anger control. And this again, we'll be taking a little more of this in the next session. I'm just listing out this control of anger. How to do that? What are these good scenes? And Swami is once even blamed her, saying that when you're angry, go and look at your face in the mirror and then see how badly it looks. You look like an animal or a monster. Therefore, that's why, at least from that angle, don't be angry. Don't become angry. Don't shout. Don't scream at people. And when you are angry, drink some cold water, move on from that place, breathe slowly, relax, cool. And this is anger is very important because it can affect the blood pressure, increase the blood pressure of people, heart attacks, all sorts of things. anger control, then be charitable as much as possible. Don't say I'm not that rich. You don't have to be rich. Even 1 rupee from your pocket, even in charity, is good. And therefore, the Shastras say 16% of your income, if it could be put for charity, it is good. Do not attach yourself to do not attach yourself to anybody, any product, any place, any time. That I want this time, I want this place, I want this product. No kind of attachments, no over attachments, no Tina principle. There's Tina principle. So it is not possible without that. It is not that I cannot exist without this or that. Mokshaya is what is called moksha. And the mother, ego, pride, vanity give up the thought that I am important. I want to become an VIP. Swami used to say, I don't care for VIPs because VVIPs and VVIPs used to come to Swami. For them, he said, I call for only P. And even not P, I said D. Swami used to say, if he said devotee, it matters to me. Otherwise, if he is just a P, no, not even that is important. Therefore, become P or devotee D, and then all other things. Then nothing else is more important than this. The Matsarya, the jealousy, the sister of the above qualities, and comparison of others, harping on what others have, although we have much more different things with us. Jealousy breeds again contempt, enmity, hatred, unhappiness, contentment, and sai santosham. And all this come from the satsang only. Satsang is the real medicine for all of us for vanquishing all provocations. And pray to Swami, let us all now pray to Swami that be in this, be in this Namasmarana. We always put a Namasmarana on our lips all the time. It reduces the occurrences or impact of desires on us. Not that we can become desireless overnight. At least it will make the occurrences lesser and impact of desires on us, foreseeing at least, if not total annihilation of these senses or attributes, is what Swami's teachings. And then with this, today we are closing the session, and with Sai Gayatri, we will close this today. And then it also came to my mind, Swami's bhajan, one bhajan said, Nirupama Guna Sadhana. In that Nirupama Guna Sadhana, one of the earliest bhajans of Swami, Swami said, Asha, Pasha, Nasha, Isha. This Asha, Pasha, Nasha, Isha. Because Asha becomes Pasha. And unless you Nasha, that means kill the Ashas, then you will not get Isha, the God. So with this, we'll close. And Sai Ishvara Arpanamast. Sai Ishwaraya Vidmahe, Satya Devaya Dhimahi, ईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात् श्री साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात् श्री साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात् ओम श्री सर्वे जन सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त सन्मंगलानि सन्तु साईश्वरार्पणमस्तु सदाशिव हरिः ओम शांति 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 Sai Ram, thanks all of you for this session today, and let Swami bless all of us always. Sai Ram. Sai Ram, Vinod. Sai Ram.
Bhajan,
Sai Ram, thank you.
Bhajan is there.
Ah,
Auntie singing, but Saida.
oh, Sai Ram, thank you.
Uh,
The next session,
uh,
we'll continue some more points. Okay,
okay, okay,
Sai Ram.
okay. Bhajan is singing auntie or
Sai Ram.
Saida, Saida.